Hello everyone, I'm Natalie. I'm a legal executive that specialises in family law. I'm here today with my colleague Helen who is a solicitor and partner. She specialises in family law as well. So today's episode of Debrief the Legal Podcast, we're going to be talking about pre- and post-nuptial agreements. So Helen, firstly, do you want to have a little explain about what pre- and post-nuptial agreements are?
Yes, thanks, Natalie. A pre or a post-nuptial agreement is a document that is usually drafted by solicitors when people are about to get married. That's a prenuptial agreement, or after they've already got married, that's a post-nuptial agreement. And it's a legal contract between them both, between husband and wife. And it sets out the assets which each party has in a document, and it sets out actually the agreement that the parties want to reach should they get divorced. Now, that might sound like a really funny thing to do before you get married, to enter into an agreement as to what's going to happen when you get divorced. But actually, it's really quite a sensible thing to do, because it then sets out for the future. People know for the future what their position is. So, who does it apply to? So, people who have post-nuptial agreements and prenuptial, people who have prenup and post-nuptial agreements are usually people who have been married before. Perhaps they've had a financial settlement with their first husband or wife, and they've had an asset, and now they're going to get married again, and they don't want perhaps that asset to be made available to their new second spouse, because they want to save it for their children because it came from their first marriage. Sometimes you get people who have a disparity in their capital positions. Some people receive an inheritance, or they have a shareholding in a family business that they want to keep separate from their spouse should the couple get divorced. So those are the kinds of situations in which you would normally enter into a prenuptial agreement or a postnuptial agreement.
That's really interesting, Helen. Thank you. Why would you suggest somebody entering into a pre or post nuptial agreement? What do you think the risk is if they don't enter into a pre or post nuptial agreement and they do fall into one of those categories? As you say, they may have some inheritance that they're wanting to protect from a future divorce, or they've been in that position before where they have been divorced and don't want that uncertainty again.
Yes, yes. I think most people don't understand that when you get married and then you get divorced, the laws in England and Wales have a very, very wide discretion,
Mm-hmm.
and the court can make orders with regard to all the assets of the marriage. And so if somebody has put more money in than the other
Mm-hmm.
party, they may expect to get that money out because they put it in.
Mm.
But the court, under its discretion, might decide that actually, no, the other party needs that money, and so divides it. So if you were in a situation where one spouse invested more money into a marriage than the other, by doing a prenuptial agreement or a postnuptial agreement, you can protect that asset, you can ring fence it, and you can say, this asset is not going to be divided
Mm-hmm.
should we get divorced in the future. So really, what pre- and post-nuptial agreements do is they protect the assets of both parties to a marriage. They provide certainty and they provide peace of mind. I think people feel that actually, yes, if we were to get divorced, hopefully we won't, but if we do get divorced, we know what that financial settlement is going to be. Not least because, as we both know, Natalie, sometimes the legal costs can be
Mm.
quite a lot,
Mm-hmm.
can rise very rapidly, can't they?
Yeah.
Particularly in contested financial proceedings.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it sort of limits those costs because you've sorted out what the financial settlement would be before you get married.
Mm.
They're not romantic, it has to be said, doesn't it?
Yeah, not the most romantic conversation to have with your spouse or potential spouse, definitely, but I think they're important, they serve a purpose, and it I always say marriage is the one contract you enter into without reading the fine terms and conditions. So it's entering into it with that knowledge, and setting out right from the beginning what you both intend. And as you say, they have to be fair to both people. So,
Yes, yes, that's right. I think it's important to let everybody know that pre and post nuptial agreements are not legally enforceable. So if you did get divorced, the court wouldn't say, oh, absolutely, you've signed a pre or a post nuptial agreement, that's fine,
mhm,
that's what we're going to put into law. But the court will take it into account in all the circumstances of the case. And we're finding that more and more people are entering into these types of agreement, and the courts are therefore taking them into account more and more. So it is definitely worth doing one rather than not doing one. There are certain things that you've got to do. Both
mhm,
parties have got to take independent legal advice. The terms of the agreement have got to be fair and reasonable. You've got to have some kind of financial disclosure so each party knows what the other party's assets are, and it can't be signed under duress. And if it's a prenuptial agreement, so before you're getting married, it's got to be signed really at least 28 days before the wedding.
mhm.
So if you are thinking of doing a prenuptial agreement, you really do need to get in contact with a solicitor quite quickly if you've got a date planned, so that there is time for everybody to just negotiate a settlement and then put it to bed and forget about it and get on with the nice things like sorting out your wedding.
Yes. So you've spoken about examples where a pre or post nuptial agreement might be applicable to somebody. Have you had any real life examples, Helen, that you can speak about?
Yes, I've had quite a few where clients have come to me wanting these agreements, because the emphasis is very much on protecting assets. So recently, I've done one agreement which where a client of mine had got a shareholding in a family business that had gone back several generations
Mm,
and wanted to protect that shareholding. So that was the only thing that was protected. Everything else within their marriage was going to be split between them as it would be fair, but the shareholding would be accepted, would be just dealt with separately. And so that's a good example of one. Another one is where recently we've been dealing with farmers, particularly since the budget in October
mm,
2024. There have been lots of difficulties as a result of that, and farmers and business owners are being advised to make gifts during their lifetimes to give their assets to their children. But of course, then if those children are married
mhm,
and then might potentially get divorced, you've
mm,
got the issue there of what would happen to a gift that somebody has made. So we've had some farmers who have given assets to their children and lump
mm,
sums to their children, but it's been on the basis that the other party signs a post-nuptial agreement in those cases to
mm,
say that that lump sum of money that's been given again would be ring fenced as belonging to the person who received it
mhm.
and wouldn't be a matrimonial asset to be shared between them.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Helen.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.